The title of my talk today is Better Than a Rock Star, Managing the Worst That Life Throws at You Like a Pro. Much easier said than done. And I'm going to start by telling you why I'm doing this talk today. I will be telling you a story that I realized as I was preparing this talk I have actually never really shared in its entirety. And while I was practicing, it was actually really hard to get through that story. But it is the story of my worst professional failure of my career. And it was also the worst, it was also a pretty bad personal failure with a dear friend that I love and care for very much. So as Reverend Wondra shared, I actually own a small business. It's a research and evaluation firm. I was trained as a licensed clinical psychologist, not a business owner, a supervisor, or manager, so I suffered severely from imposter syndrome, that is, feeling like I was pulling the wool over people's eyes and not really as good as I was letting on. At any rate, at one point in my career, we decided to try to go for a job with LA County Department, LA Unified School District. Big bureaucracy, big job, big fat hard application to get through. And to make ourselves more competitive, I asked this dear friend, who was a good friend from graduate school and I really respected, if she wanted to partner on it. She was the CEO, she still is, of a very established firm, not like my new little one, run by someone who felt like they didn't know what they were doing. This was a long-established firm, so we decide we're gonna partner, apply for this thing. The application instructions alone were 98 pages long. It was really intense. And they wanted us to turn in old school paper copies of our applications. So the original and 5 copies and CD copies. You all don't even know what that is. See, Nancy is over, a certain age. You guys don't even know what that is in the front row. This is a CD, okay? People used to hear music on this, and you used to be able to put files on here, like information. What I did not know, okay, applying for this job was my idea, right? I wanted us to get it, and it was in LA. My friend's business is in Colorado. I had to get this turned in. Even though I'm the owner, because we're tiny, it was like 2 or 3 of us, right? This is significant because what I did not know, I had to drive to LA. I'm in Orange County. Everyone here knows what that means. If you're on Zoom, everything you've heard about LA traffic is worse than what it looks like in the movies. I was gonna leave in about an hour. I think by the time I make these copies on my rinky-dink computer, a printer at home, and by the way, we were dog sitting, and Luna the dog comes into the office and starts trampling all over the piles of applications that I have. It's a nightmare. I'm sweating, kind of like right now. And now I have like 30 minutes before I have to leave. Did you know that you cannot just, like a flash drive, put data on here? You actually have to format these things before you can put data. So it took about 20, 30 minutes to get the data on here. And I had less than an hour to leave, and I had to do 3. So if you can do the math, I was not gonna make it. My cushion for traffic was gone. At this point, I'm hoping, praying that I'll get lucky and some magic will happen, and LA traffic will not be like LA, but maybe like, I don't know, Tennessee or something. That didn't happen. The traffic was really bad. I get there, it's the heart of LA, there's the parking. I walk up to the front of the building. At this point, it's probably 10 minutes to 3. But I get to the front door and they open the door and they have like airport security. I mean like with the metal detector, and you have to go through the line and conveyor belt and take out your laptop, and I'm like, oh my, okay. I get in line, I get to the front, and they go, oh, but you didn't check in, where's your tag? And I'm like, what? And they go, you need to go over there and check in. I do this, I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna throw up, because it's like, I don't know, 2 minutes till, I still don't even know where in this building I need to go. So I finally get myself to the 4th floor, I find the desk, I find the person, I have my application, these hard copies and these things, and and she says, and I know you're all hoping and praying for me. If we prayed, we don't, we're Buddhists, but that this is going to turn out well for me, but I told you this is the worst story of my professional career. She says, I can't take that from you. You're past the deadline. And I'm just thinking about all the work, not just it's 2 companies we've worked on this. Not only did I work weekends and evenings for weeks, it actually cost us money. We had to pay for an external audit of our companies to put in this application. And I'm just thinking about all the people counting on me to get this in, and I missed it by minutes. What if I just wouldn't have fixed that table? What if I just would have not worried about the typos? But I did do those things, and it meant that I failed. And I'm gonna have to tell my friend, nobody is ever gonna see this application. All that work, weeks of work, no one's ever gonna, we have no chance, no one's gonna see it. And so I get to my car and I start making the long drive back to to Orange County. And I feel like someone has punched me in the stomach. All this anxiety in my chest, and I just wanna disappear. I just don't even wanna exist in that moment. I felt so awful. And what I wanted to do was just call my mom, because she loves me unconditionally and she always makes me feel better. But I thought about my Buddhist practice, and I thought, oh, this is a window of opportunity to learn. Do I want to learn from this? And I begrudgingly said, yes. And I think I thought that when I said yes, all of a sudden I would know the next step, but I didn't. I just sat in this discomfort, and it didn't come clearly like what I was gonna do next. And that's why I wanna share with you today, because I've learned from this practice and psychology some of the things we could do. So I'm gonna start by sharing the answer. And then I'm going to tell you a little more how I went through it with my experience. So the answer, start by labeling your emotion. I just knew I felt gutted and awful and terrible, and I wanted it to go away and do all the fun, distracting things instead of sitting with that discomfort. Step 2, ask yourself, what is the function? Not of the thing that happened, but what your feeling is telling you. And step 3, sit back and enjoy the Buddhist life. All right, so step 1, label your emotions. I will say that for the most part, we actually don't always have a lot of feeling words, and we tend to want to focus on positive feelings, because they're nicer. But it's not just us. That's also our culture. Our culture leads us to believe we're supposed to be happy and joyful and grateful at all times. And certainly gratitude is great. There's a lot of evidence behind that. But I want to say, as a psychologist, mental health is actually the ability to feel the full range of emotions and express and manage the full range of emotions. If somebody's only having positive and only speaking and staying within that little window of the easy feelings, that is actually not mental health. So, when you ask people about their feelings, they tend to only name 3, things like sad, mad, and glad. But we have over 16,000 feelings and thoughts every single day. You don't need to lean into all of those, but definitely when something is nagging and tugging at you, or in my case, making you feel intense pain, that is something that is helpful to lean into and learn from. This is one word cloud that I just Googled a word cloud, right? And there's tons of feeling words in there. So if we just take the emotion of joy, it can range from sensual pleasures like the taste of your favorite ice cream to awe, inspiration. Some of you recently graduated, parents are feeling really proud. There's all kinds of positive feelings, right? So, a lot of my talk today comes from my favorite podcast that I talk about a lot. It's the Happiness Lab, and this is the QR code to specifically this episode called Emotions Are Data, so listen to them. So if you scan that, you can listen to the whole episode. It is with Dr. Susan David, sorry. It's fantastic. So let's say you go, you know what, I do want to try this. How do you do it? You would start by just giving some time to that feeling, right? And ask yourself, what am I feeling? You might say, like, I notice I'm feeling. And then you fill in the blank. So for me, I noticed it was deep, deep shame. I was so embarrassed by what I didn't do. If you want to go a step further and really be pro, try to think of some more feeling words. For me, I realized I was very afraid of rejection and not being good enough. I mentioned I was struggling with imposter syndrome. When I really thought about it, I realized I was petrified. I was working so hard at maintaining this facade that I knew everything I was supposed to know and I could do everything that people wanted me to do. And it was exhausting. I was working nights, weekends, all the time, and just Googling things in the back, so people wouldn't know what I didn't know. So, at any rate, that's step 1, is figuring out what is it that you're feeling. Once you have that down, you can move on to step 2, identify the function. So how do you do that? So you say, WTF, what am I going through? What's the function? So you might ask, like, well, what is this feeling telling me? Is there something in my life that I need more of or less of? Is there a change that I desire? And then, if you want to go a step further, you might ask, what can I do about that? And am I willing to do it? Because I will say, identifying your feelings, asking WTF, when the F stands for function, this takes a lot of bravery. It's hard. So for me, going through this, I realized I sat with that discomfort. I realized it was shame. I realized I had deep imposter syndrome and that I was living in intense fear a lot of the time. And I thought, what would it take for that feeling to not be there? What would I want to change? And I thought, what if I could just be myself? Like, what if I showed up at the table with all my flaws and I didn't try to hide those? And just that thought of that, I felt like this huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders without it even happening, just the thought that it could happen. So then I thought, and by the way, this did not happen in a day. This took weeks or months. I thought, what would I do? What would it take for me to have that change happen in my life? And I thought, when I'm afraid of people seeing me how I am, what if I dare to just show up as myself with all my flaws? So I thought, I'm going to try it. The next time I feel scared, I'm just going to say what I don't know or say what I can't do and see what happens. And what happened shocked me. So I said, I don't know what that means. Can you tell me? And they told me. I said, my brother is sick in the hospital and I'm going to have to take some time off. So instead of getting to you Friday, would it be okay with you if I took another week? And they said, sure, I hope your brother's okay. Take care of whatever you need to take care of. It has been years since I went through this experience, and I am not exaggerating when I tell you that 100% of the time, when I tell people, I can't do this, or this is what I don't know, every single time, they say, okay, take care of yourself, or that's fine, let me tell you what I know about this thing. And that brings me to point 3, or step 3, in the what do you do in these difficult situations? Sit back and enjoy the Buddhist life. So for me, what I found is, so we want to, in that difficult moment, I had a lot of coping strategies I could have used to push those feelings away. But I always told people when I was doing therapy, those feelings, if you have a nagging feeling, it doesn't go away. You're trying to let it go, it won't, so you want to lean in. It's because that feeling is trying to tell you something. We want to push that away, but that's not reality. When we can hold our emotions as they are, that is us holding the reality of your world, right? So to me, that's right view. When we try to push those feelings away, that is not right view. That's rejecting your reality. And when we can ask what's the function and be really thoughtful and mindful about what actions to take, this is a way of having, for me, right thought and right conduct. Conduct that is going to put me on my Buddhist path, help me be aligned with my true self and where I need to be going. So I really believe that your emotions and these difficult emotions, they're actually a light. Instead of thinking of them as this horrible thing that you need to push away, think of those things as shining a light onto your Buddhist path. They are telling you something that in your life is not aligned with where you need to be, or you're behaving in a way that doesn't align with your Buddhist path. There's 80,000 Buddhist plus paths, right, we learn. Nobody could tell you what your path looks like. Your emotions, especially these difficult ones, they're a window, they're a light onto your Buddhist path if you can listen to them. And sadly, we're going to constantly be constantly have difficult times. This photo was taken by my dear friend, Ann Nakahira, who is sitting right there. And she took it during a hike, and you can't see, but those little white things are actually icicles. And those flowers are this big. And they're little icicles on these flowers. And I remember when we stopped to look at that, it just was so beautiful and fragile. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to get to see this again. And I love this photo, and I asked her to send it to me because it reminds me of how much things are changing constantly in the world. And so we also want to pay attention to our positive feelings and have gratitude, right? So in that moment, I felt such joy. And that was telling me being with friends, being out in nature, getting exercise is the right path for me. I was feeling all these good feelings, and it was going to go away. And we're constantly going to have ups and downs. And in those downs, when we want to run away and escape and push those bad feelings away, you have the power to choose. Do you want to push it down and escape? Or do you want to lean in and learn and get closer to your Buddhist path for you? So, if you can't let go, that might be a signal. Lean in and ask yourself, WTF? What's the function? All right, thank you so much for listening today. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu.